Hi, everyone. My name is Bruce, and today we are a girl, some guys, and a movie watching the 1971 classic Shaft with Richard Roundtree as the title character. And boy, did we have fun. With me is Janet from another planet,
Well,
and over here is our friend Six Nations 31 Kings. How you doing today, ladies and gentlemen?
I'm great. So,
What up, world champ?
Janet, was
Can you dig it? I can
I
dig
can
it.
dig it. Janet, was this your first time watching it?
yes, I never saw it before today.
Seen it in the video rent. Saw it in video rentals and never picked it up. I saw it on sale, never picked it up. Saw it at Walmart one time, never picked it up. Shame on me.
Well, I thought it was pretty good.
Late night cable was great.
You thought all three were pretty great?
Oh, there's three movies?
All three of them were great. Yeah. Technically, there's five because there's the 2000 Samuel L. Jackson one where he plays Shaft number 2, technically, right?
Yeah.
Something like that. And then they made a fifth one in 2019, which I have not seen yet.
And
Yeah,
there's
that's
the
with
there's
Uh,
made for TV movies too.
This was chock full of cheese, 70s action, crappy dialogue, but
well,
it works.
it wasn't really
It's
crappy
like
dialogue. The
ghetto
dialogue was
Shakespeare.
like how they would speak to each other supposedly uh, in um, in is it Queens?
New York, Bronx, Harlem.
Yeah, in the Bronx, Harlem, in 1970s, early 1970s, basically. Brother, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Uh, and that was just the way they spoke to each other. Apparently, I mean
It's very sweet,
yeah, it was very.
but it's not very
I have to take
Hollywood.
this off.
Like
I'm sorry, I'm starting to
it would be
sweat
completely sanitized.
in my pleather jacket.
All right, you Puritans, look out! Janet's burying her shoulders.
Well, it's my my early 70s, one of my 70s outfits. So,
I'm digging it.
but
I'm digging it.
uh, I just thought it was very interesting the way that they filmed it. I loved the way the camera angles were. They're like all close up and personal, like all these shots. And they did do some far away shots of the street to kind of give you context for the attitude of the people and why they spoke to each other that way, and to let you know that he was a private detective. He wasn't a police officer, because a lot of detectives and police officers would dress in regular street clothes depending on what their jobs were. So I like the fact that they had an actual detective from the police department still in regular dress clothes talk to him on the street. So it kind of separated them, so you'd know that he was a detective, but he didn't work for the police department. But I like the way the director chose to film it, to put you up personal, like right in his space. So you were like right in the scene as it's being filmed. I really like that. And it was almost like I felt like I stepped back in time with the rich colors from the apartments and inside the houses and stuff. It was very 70s, early 70s styles, the clothing, the hairstyles, the long sideburns. I just love that he had, that kind of stuff. And the music, the way they played the music, it kind of pushed me into another era, like it was sucking you back into the 70s. I really liked it because you couldn't help but get enveloped into the script. I mean, at least I felt like that. I felt like I was following Richard Roundtree as he walked the streets of Harlem to shake down neighborhood thugs. It was like, I don't know, I just felt like I really liked his character. And when I looked it up and found out that he was just a commercial actor, that's it. He'd only been in commercials. And when he was picked for this part, I mean, he was a very nice looking man too. I mean, he didn't look like a wimpy, not believable character for someone to be a private detective in case they get stuck somewhere and you need to duke it out or run. jump over a fence or whatever. He just seemed very athletically built, that he could actually do some of the stuff they expected him to do to be in Harlem and be a private detective. And I just thought he did a really good job. I was really impressed. And I think this is the movie that made Roundtree a star, basically. Pushed him into the spotlight, even though he'd only been in commercials. But I can see why he was in magazines and commercials and stuff, because he's, a nice looking man. Very nice looking. Sorry, go ahead. You guys just took over too much. But I did like the director.
Well, let's give the audience some context to what the movie is about.
Okay, go ahead.
Richard Roundtree plays Shaft, detective.
Yeah.
And Bumpy Jonas, the mobster of Uptown, Black Syndicate, his niece gets kidnapped, and
by Italian mobsters.
Throughout the movie, you find out that the mafioso of downtown kidnapped her, and there's a beef between the two gangs, basically. And so it's his job to find her, rescue her, and bag some chicks while he's at it.
Well, he had a girlfriend. He had a full-time girlfriend. He hung out there. That was the first woman you saw in bed on the couch. And that was really authentic looking. The makeout that they had, the way that they grabbed each other and they caressed each other and stuff. And the position on the couch where you got to see, you weren't in front of the couch looking at him. You were like from the back to the side a little bit of the couch, looking over it at her, and the way she laid up on top of him when they were caressing each other and stuff before they, made it to the bedroom or whatever. But it was authentic looking. It almost looked like you were really in their apartment, just listening to their conversation, and you weren't intrusive because you weren't right up on them, but you were like across the room a little bit. Like if we were sitting in a chair or at a table over there, and you looked over, and that's what you would see. So to me, it was very authentic the way they filmed that scene. I mean, I like this director. Who was this guy? What other movies has he made? Because he was very good at getting, to me, bringing me into their realm. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? I was impressed with this director. And I was looking for editing mistakes and all kinds of stuff, but I really couldn't. I'd have to see it again, I think, because there's so much packed into this movie, action wise, weapons, people. I mean, on the streets.
Gordon Park.
Yeah, it had a lot of stuff in it. Considering it only cost $500,000 to make, I was really, really taken back by that when Bruce told me about it, because I asked him about it earlier before I watched the movie, and I was like, holy shit, they did a good job. I mean, even the texture of the film quality and all that stuff, sound quality was good. In the music was kind of like, like, I don't know, I can't even do it, but it was a hit. The album, the song won an Academy Award. I'm trying to remember the name of the guy. Something Hayes, Isaac Hayes was the one that sang Shaft, and it was a huge hit. Yeah.
Chef.
Yeah. I know. Later on, but back in 1971, we didn't have South Park.
Well, no, but he also had applied for the job, and because Isaac was such a commanding individual, you see him later in Escape from New York.
Escape from New York.
He looks really big. He's BMF, and the director's like, "Hold on, don't leave. You're not going to get this job, but I've got something else for you. You do music, right?" And that opened a whole new door for Isaac Hayes, because he'd done music beforehand, but he'd never had a hit of that magnitude. And that's where his entire career basically started from, even though he'd been doing it for years. Now he's just going to get the recognition he deserved. It was great.
Yeah.
I loved Moses Gunn in this movie. I thought Bumpy was great.
Yeah, he was actually based off of an actual gangster.
Bumpy Johnson, who's been in numerous films, represented in numerous films inspired by, because there was a Bumpy in American Gangsters. Fishburne played another Bumpy in the 2009 movie. I forgot the name of that. But there's been like 3 or 4 bumpy characters throughout Hollywood that have been refractions off of Bumpy Johnson, who Bumpy Jonas was based off of. And the guy must have been a hell of a monster.
Harlem Night.
Go ahead.
I can't remember if it was Harlem Nights or what. Anyhow, yeah, I remember Moses Gunn from Kung Fu, the conversation we had earlier. He played the freed slave that practiced capoeira and was kicking racist butt with Kwai Chang Caine, which is funny because he's like not a martial artist, so they had to like doctor a bunch of shit. But still, stuck out in my mind. He was in Roots. There was a lot of good actors, and there was a lot of good
I
character
recognize
actors. Like
lots of faces of
some
people.
of
I
the
couldn't tell you their name.
characters, and they were in
Sorry.
Antonio Fargas being one of them.
Yeah, Clarence Williams III, American Gangster, Lawrence Fishburne in Hoodlum in 1997, and Forrest Whitaker in The Godfather of Harlem. Those are all the bumpy types that were based off of Bumpy Johnson. Maybe that'll actually print out to YouTube and Twitter. I don't know. All right. Well, I don't know why we ignored this movie for so long. I mean, it's obviously a big cultural phenomenon. It was the 5th blaxploitation film to come out, and it was the first one to really start getting traction. Sweetwater was right before that, I believe, and that had started to awaken up this demographic that did not really go to movies much because they just weren't represented. I mean, they were in films, but they were often sideline characters and such. This one here actually analyzes it and takes you into the world of Harlem as they see it. Now, mind you, some people got really butthurt because this was not a black crew that made the movie about the black lifestyle. They were upset because there was still a lot of white people involved with the script making, the supporting cast, the fact that like we're allowing them to pretty much tag along, camera along with Shaft throughout this whole time. But
where did you read that? Because I didn't find anything like that.
I was reading that on actually the Wikipedia page, which could be completely erroneous. But
well, yeah, because anybody and their brother can add to that.
Yeah, but
So, yeah,
like it's an interesting thought because if that's the truth, then and I don't feel that's the total truth because the writer of this story, I don't believe I'm fairly
the
certain
guy that wrote the book, he helped write the screenplay.
Yeah, he helped outline which parts of the book they wanted to put in here. That was Ernest Tidyman, and he was not exactly, if I remember right, I'm pulling up information here.
Yeah, he wasn't happy with some of the way they were taking the direction of the script, but didn't say anything that I read that said that they didn't like there was too many white people involved or anything like that. I didn't read anything at all that was negative when it came to being racial. Being like, oh, I don't like
this wasn't things.
Whites.
These are reflections that were written down after the 80s. Probably after the 80s were done and over with. But people were critical of Shaft because there was still a lot of whiteness in the movie. And there's going to be those butthurt individuals that are always going to be like, well, your steak was fine. It was cooked to my specification, but it just didn't have enough.
Well, I responded to a movie review. They were talking about the Captain America movie, and I responded that I won't buy a ticket to another Captain America movie because Falcon is not Captain America. No. And someone said, oh, it's because he's black. It's the first thing they brought up. Had nothing to do with Falcon is Falcon, and Falcon is not a superhero. He has to have his outfit to make him as powerful as he is. He doesn't have any superpowers of his own.
Literally, he needs a superhero wheelchair.
Well, yeah. So basically, and he's going to get old, and he's not going to be able to do it anymore if there isn't someone to take his place. Bucky's the one that should have been Captain America from someone like me that that likes Captain America. I have pictures of him on my wall right here. But so everybody, well, not everyone, but there's still a lot of people that the first thing they throw out is either sexism or racism.
It's always that way.
Those two things. Either you need a vagina or you need a penis to do something, or your skin color's wrong.
Well, it's can we even just say that, like, people who worship at the altar of victimology or envy, that's what they go for. Because I'm scrolling back through that Wikipedia article about this, and there's actually a fairly big wiki page in Tiedeman's novels about Shaft going through the process of being a good detective. And this is like a really good formula story. This really is. This is actually good standard boilerplate, like what you'd find with Sam Spade, or there's quite a few others that are out there. But I would say that like Sam Spade, Lou Archer, and Philip Marlowe, those are the other two. But this movie came out kind of right after Sweetback's Badass Song. And that was directed and written and produced by Marvin Van Peebles, starring Melvin Van Peebles, which is Mario Van Peebles' father, if I remember right.
Well, I never even heard of that. I have no idea what you're talking about.
It's one of the first one. It was a precursor to
we'll have to take down
phenomenon,
the rabbit hole of blaxploitation.
Yeah, it was another movie that made like for $150,000. And it boxed office 15.2 million back in March of 1971. And
well,
it's another film that's in the National Film Registry by the Library of Congress because it's very significant. But that was like the third or fourth blaxploitation film. So these two movies kind of set the stage and created a whole genre of film. Because up to that point, like, there was not a whole lot of representation of non-Anglo types in movies. I wonder how much they had to fight to get the Oriental or the Chinese guys to be Dirty Harry's partner.
Well,
in the Dirty
the
Harry
fact that they played this in China, I'm shocked, because China still has a hard time with any black actors being the star of any movie, because they're very racist people in China. They don't like black people, and they're open about it. So the fact that they keep pushing it on America, as America being the most racist country in the world, is stupid, because that means they don't pay attention to actual facts, whoever says that shit. But one of the things that I found is that the prime example of blaxploitation, is how you say it?
Blaxploitation.
Okay. Yeah, ploitation genre is it was selected in 2000 for preservation in the United States National Film Registry of the Library of Congress for being culturally, historically, and aesthetically significant for Shaft.
You're damn right.
And it says, and it has two sequels called Shaft's Big Score, it came out in 1972, and Shaft in Africa, that came out in 1973. I haven't seen either one of those. So if they were as fun as this one, then I wouldn't mind watching them, because I thought this was very well done, and it actually felt like I was there, because I had nothing bothering me. I'm just focused on the movie, and I felt like I said in the one scene when this woman comes over to him, to say it's okay, you need to relax or whatever, to give him comfort, because she knew he was stressed out. And they ended up making love. And the fact that they didn't have to put all the stick it here and stick it there and all that stuff into it, it was still very sexy and very a good turn on. I can see a lot of people thinking this like is a makeout movie. You take your girlfriend with you, and they get all riled up with the action and the guns and the fighting and the masculinity. Like I was saying, there's tons of that in this movie. This movie exudes that, which I loved, and that was one of the things that I felt from it. I said it would be so nice to be able to walk down the street like these people were and look across the thing and see some guys, and the guy say, "Hey, babe." Remember, guys used to do that shit. You can't do it now. You get arrested, or you get rocks thrown at you, or you'll be pelted, because you're a misogynistic piece of pig or whatever. Women liked it. I didn't know any women that didn't like a guy catcalling or whistling it. Now, if they come over and they all start grabbing you and shit, I don't like that. But a guy turning their head looking at a woman, or a woman even looking at a guy. I mean, if I saw a guy walking down the street and he was dressed sharp and he had a nice suit on or whatever, I would look. I mean, I'm human, and I want us to get back to that. I want us to get back to appreciation of the opposite sex, simply because you like to look at it. There's nothing, you don't have to go over and grab it. Unless they want you to, you know what I mean? But I mean, I want to get back to where we can appreciate the opposite sex again and appreciate the differences between us, that type of stuff. I want to get back to that again.
This movie, the cinematography was done by a guy that I've never heard of before, and there's a couple of reasons about that, but his name was Urs for Her, and he was apparently from Sumatra in the Dutch East Indies, now Sumatra, Indonesia. And he was known for a few big films like the Seven Ups and Shaft, but he'd been a cinematographer since '62, doing The Lash of Lust, and then he did Sin You Sinners in '63. I'm just going through his IMDb, of course.
Sin You Sin.
Sin You Sinners. Okay. And like The Lash of Lust has an 8.6 rating on IMDb, so I'm filing that in our Explore category. But he was on set in '75 doing filming on I'm not certain which one, but he was on set and he had a heart attack at the age of 40.
Oh.
But he put people right in the middle of the action. And he did the cinematography for the Seven Ups, which is a great Roy Schneider film, in my opinion, at least. Roy Schneider, we're going to go through his filmography. We will at some point. And we're not going to do it today, but we're going to step through his filmography because I love his work. And Roy Schneider is in a movie called The Seven Ups. It's another crime noir film in the early mid-70s. And it's a good film, and Urs just would put you right in the middle of where he's at, and that was just a signature thing. It sucks he passed the way he did.
And you're talking about the guy that filmed this movie?
I'm talking about the cinematographer for Shaft.
Okay, because I loved him. I thought it was very refreshing to see it again.
Build and became like this awesome low budget action crime noir film. Charles Skip Pitts. He's the guy that does the wah-wah guitar as Shaft is walking down the 42nd.
I love that scene.
And that guy's a freaking legend. He passed away about 12, 13 years ago. My God, I play.
Because also,
it just sets the tone for the movie. Go ahead.
Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. I thought you stopped. It's like, I guess I got a lag or something. But I was going to go back to the soundtrack for the music and the stuff. I don't know. It seemed like, even though it was kind of, corny now watching it this, far into the future with that, I can't even do the sound effects or anything. I'm not good at that stuff. But if you go back and you I looked it up, because it said that he won a Grammy Award for Best Original Score. Okay, it was written for the motion picture, and a second Grammy for the Best Instrumental Arrangement. And the theme from Shaft won the Academy Award for Best Original Song. So he won 3 awards for the work that he did on this movie. So that really must have really just pushed him out into the limelight too. And it wasn't just Black people buying the music either, and whites went to the movie too, from everything that I read. So right there, to me, in the 1970s, that it didn't seem like there was a huge a spotlight on racism. It seemed like there were lots of Blacks that were moving up and becoming stars and singers and writers and whatever else. So I just don't see, anybody making a big stink over it, saying there wasn't enough, Black people getting treated like, normal people, because they are.
That's the problem that the leftists have with ability in class.
Hmm.
So they had to switch to in order to further their agenda, because race, whereas,
And that's one of the reasons.
you can have two people from the same city, one go to Harvard and one work on a farm.
Yeah.
So,
But I think that's one of the reasons why we saw this huge rise in this whole thing pushing. Okay, we had Blacks who now become they can have any job and do anything. Okay, because they're educated, they want to become mechanics or doctors or lawyers or whatever. No one was looking at, oh, there's not enough Black people working in the United States. And then you also had the gays. People were accepting either lesbians or gay men to be with their lovers, and nobody cared. It was like they could be walking down the street or in a restaurant and no one gave it time of day, right? Well, then the left was like, we got to do something. So what did they do? They rob the gays for all the work they've achieved and start making trans having to be shoved down your throat. Even my gay friends are sick of it. They're like, so it wasn't enough that we were starting to live in harmony together with gays, lesbians, and Blacks, Hispanics, or whatever. Racism was like almost completely gone. And then you had the left start shoving it down our throat because I
divided. You have to fight
I
against
was
each
born
other.
white, I'm a racist. And because I like men and I'm not a lesbian, I hate gays. It's stupid. And I'm loving the fact that more and more people are realizing that it's fake, that it's not real, that to start judging a person by the way they treat you and not because of that guy back there that's telling you, oh, that person's white, so they hate you, or that person's straight, so they hate you. So that's what I liked about this movie. I didn't see any of that in here, really. They did say the N-word, but that was Blacks saying it to each other, and little things like that were in there. But you see that in every group of people. Every classroom, you have the stuck-up snotty brats, and you have the bullies, and then you have the nerds, and they're all socially awkward people are shuffled to one side of the room. That's always going to happen in any society. You're going to have like me, I had two gorgeous blonde sisters built like hourglass, and I was a tall stick with brown hair. So I wasn't treated the same way as my sisters when we walked into a room. They were like, who's that? So it's always going to be there when you have men and women. Okay. And you have different races. If some's tall, some short, we're always going to have that kind of bias where people are going to pick on someone because they wear glasses or because their hair is the wrong color or whatever it is, or they don't have the right clothes on. That's always going to happen. And we need that a little bit in society because it helps you realize, I don't want to be with that person. They're a dick, they're an asshole or whatever. So, I like that. The fact that they seemed like they did a good job when they wrote this script to try to make it in your face, and were able to get a director that could visualize it and try to put it out there for us to watch it and be able to see it the same way. Just like I said, I felt like I was enveloped and I was walking down the street with him as he's going about his business to try to find out who took this girl and to help, free her, and to get a group of people they could trust to help him achieve that goal, type of thing. And I thought it was I just thought that the director was really, really good. And I hadn't seen any of his stuff so far, at least the stuff that you were talking about earlier.
I could definitely watch more of the Shaft character. And there were even TV movies that were made before the series became a thing. It wasn't a very long-lived series, but apparently there was a couple TV movies put in, and then they did their.
Was it the same actor in the TV series?
I believe so. I believe it was Roundtree the whole time. And then it's kind of funny because after the Shaft fades, and after he stops making the films, he tries to get away from it. And then finally, when he's in his older years, he's like, I've always been Shaft. I've been the guy. Yeah. And it was kind of good to see him come back to that. And sadly, we lost him in 2023. But I mean, 2/3 of the cast and crew is passed on this film. It was made in 71.
Mm-hmm.
Urs and so many others. A lot of the main leads of this film are in the ground already. It's sad, but this movie is, yeah, very fucking culturally significant. I'm pretty impressed with this, and I'm sad that I'm 50 and just now watching it for the first time.
Well, I'm just glad I got to watch it. I mean,
Yeah.
because there's thousands and thousands and thousands of movies that I've never seen and I probably never will see. And some I'm glad I didn't see. So,
Yeah.
you know, I'm just glad that we had the chance to see it and actually get to sit down in peace and quiet and pay attention and enjoy a movie that was so well done. And the story was really good. It was authentic, believable the way that they put it together. And I just thought the casting director did a great job of picking the people, the set design, the costumes. I mean, they did a very good job at making me believe these people really lived in this area and worked with each other and hung out and walked these streets. I mean, I felt like that. And even with the corny music, because that was the only thing, but I don't know why I loved it though. It was very nostalgic for me. It reminded me of movies that my mom and dad would watch when I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
And I just liked that. Maybe that's one of the reasons why I liked it so much, is it was very nostalgic for me.
There's one part I was looking for the landlord afterwards, but I realized that was the director, Gordon Parks. And Gordon Parks, whenever he was scripting out this movie, like, I don't think this movie was originally written when the story was coming out. I don't think it was originally written with a black male in mind to take Shaft's place. And when Gordon Parks got a hold of the script, he started shopping it for what he wanted because he was seeing the future. He's like, we could make some money with this. Yeah, we could make another Sam Spade or another Philip Marlowe, but we don't have somebody from Harlem.
And it was a great idea.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that they put it was centered in Harlem, and almost all black actors in it, because they needed the black actors, because it wouldn't be believable if they did it in Harlem with white people or Hispanics. Maybe Hispanics might have worked, but the fact that they used authentic like people to play the characters is what made it good. And the fact that the scenes that they shot down the streets and the cars and the overpasses and all the different things in the little rinky-dink restaurants and bars that they used, they seemed authentic to me. I mean, I really felt like I was in Harlem, walking around and stuff. So that's hard to do. I mean, it really is, to get people to believe that when they're visually watching it, because there's something here or there is going to say, it's so stupid, But I didn't feel that. Even the music made it even more authentic for me. I just thought it was really, really good. I was very impressed. I was shocked. I liked it so much.
I found the conflict on the Wikipedia that a lot of people were upset. And this isn't anything from the 70s. I think this is something that was written in the 2010s or 20s.
Yeah.
Mark Reed, for example, argues that Shaft is a product of the white studio imagination and merely a black-skinned replica of a white action hero commonly found in the genre. And then one way that Shaft's blackness is showcased throughout the attire, he's stylistically radicalized. He's stylistically racialized. He wears clothes and affects manners that are associated with being black. And he's known for his elegant garb. He's frequently draped in leather coats and turtlenecks throughout the whole film.
Magnum PI dressed like that.
Yeah, and this is like,
and he was white. Okay. See, that to me is racist in itself. Sorry.
The novelization of Shaft, which was before the movie was released.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he just finished it and started shopping it.
Character.
Say again?
And sorry.
The studio, hearing that they lose South, wanted to do Michael Murphy as Shaft.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't know much about Michael Murphy. He's a white actor, probably really good at his trade.
Mm-hmm. Well,
so the fact that they went actor to do that.
What we got with this movie, like, there's three people that could have carried this. One of them got it, and that is Richard Roundtree. The second would be Isaac Hayes. Isaac Hayes, as he was in Escape from New York, amazing. Great screen presence. Looks like the bad motherfucker you don't want to cross. The last person would be Fred Williamson. That guy could have carried it. He didn't, but he got his due with a bunch of other good movies. And we're gonna delve into those over the course of time.
Well, I wanted to jump in and say this. Okay, the writer, the original writer, helped write the script. Okay, and that's important because that makes it more authentic to what the original story was. I like stories that are written by the actual writer. Okay, instead of taking 5 different stories and having 3 screenwriters put them together and make one. It's not usually as good, and it's usually jumbly. You know, I can't explain any different than that. It makes it more authentic to watch when you get to see it coming from the writer. Okay, that is one thing. And then the other thing is you're going to have every production company, when they read whatever script it is, they see other people, envision other people in the parts, different than you would have for your director. That when they read it, they see it differently than the production company sees it. The production company's thinking money. That's all they're thinking about. Who's the big star? Who's going to show their ass? Who's going to show their tits? Yeah. So that's why they would always say, oh, we got to get Clint Eastwood, or we got to get this person, or we got to get that person, because they're thinking of dollars and how many seats are going to put in the chairs. That's all they're thinking about. They're not thinking about whether the story's good, if it's going to be a barfer or whatever. They could care less. All they care about is who we can get in this movie to get people to come buy tickets. That's it. That's the cinematographer and the director. They look at they go out and they look at sets. They go out and look at streets. They have a person that goes out and does that and takes pictures and videos and comes back and shows it to them. Then they say, oh, this is good. I like this view. I like that. Where is this at? And then they start mapping it out and they get a storyboard started on what they want to see in the film. Okay. And then you have your script supervisor that goes through and makes sure that each day when they're filming that they're using what is supposed to be in the script. Okay. Because that's how you get, when you have a good team, you have a really good movie. Even if it's a B-rate movie or low budget, it doesn't matter. If everyone works together to put the parts in that their job tells them they're supposed to stay as close to the story and the script that the director wants, it's going to be good because you're going to see it through the director's eyes, the way it's supposed to unfold in front of you. And I feel when I watch this, and a lot of people might say, oh, it was quirky, it had this, that, and the music took me out of it or whatever, because they couldn't go back to 1971. See, that a lot of people have a hard time doing that. That's why a good Western to me is a Western that makes me feel like I'm in the mountains. I'm riding horseback. I'm shooting guns. I'm smoking and rolling my own cigarettes. Whatever it is, the more authentic qualities that you could add to it, it makes it that much better for the viewer that is paid to go see a Western or a romantic comedy or whatever it is. You're paying for it because that's the kind of thing that you're attracted to. And also you'll get people to come just because of the trailer or whatever else, you get people to watch it. So you might grab new people, but to see a movie where the editing is good, the props are good, everything goes together because it looked like the director and the cinematographer worked side by side to make something and to put it out there. And everyone else that picked who the actors were, the sets, the clothing, all the different stuff. I thought that even the lovers, the 2 love interests that were in this movie that were slept with Shaft, they made it look real. It didn't look like, oh, it's just some bimbo laying in the bed and she didn't even have a line, or they did a good job to me to make it a believable scene in the show for you to understand where he was coming from and what kind of guy he was. I don't know if any of that. If I just rambled on. Sorry.
It really, the main part that I caught in this movie is the fact that nothing has changed from the 1970s. Hookup culture largely implies like, hey, I know we just kind of hooked up, but I really enjoyed that. And the dude's like, yeah, I know, bye. And that's it. That's
Hey, at least he didn't pick her up and throw her out the door without her clothes on and then throw her clothes at her. I mean, he was a little bit of a gentleman
he's
to
fully
her.
dressed. I'm going to go get ice.
So I don't know. I didn't think he was that bad. I didn't think he was a womanizing pig. She didn't have to go back with him. And she's the one that said in the first place, he's good looking. I would like to get with him. So, you get what you put out,
Yeah.
basically, you know what I mean? So I thought that was good. Now his girlfriend, look how good he treated her. He was respectful to her. He was in her apartment, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And even though he was sleeping with other people that the girlfriend may not know about, that part was kind of sad. But, to me, that's reality.
Sure she knows.
That was
What
reality.
woman does not, what girl does not have intuition?
Lots of women. They go years and not think about it at all. That's just normal because we don't think about it.
Man. I don't know. I thought this movie is a success. This is a triumph. Like this, between this and just reading a little bit here and there, this and Sweet Sweetback, two movies that pretty much blew the doors open for blaxploitation films to be made. Now, Melvin Van Peebles came out later with a theater play because he kind of got out of movies for a bit, and he made a self play or an autobiographical play. It says "Don't Get Cheap on Me," I believe was the title of it, where he's screaming at Hollywood like, "You better fucking pay us, people. That's all I ask. You treat us the same way you treat these other fuckers you've been here with the last decades and decades and decades. We want the same. We want the same amount of respect. That's all we ask. And money's nice too." And that was, he was a creative playwright, and he worked pretty hard almost all of his life. His son Mario walked in his footsteps as an actor. I remember he did a movie called Solo. Remember that, Six Nations?
Yes, I do.
No.
Yeah. Yeah. It was in the 80s, early 90s era of action films, when action films were going through their transition phase. Like, okay, Chuck Norris isn't pulling it as much. Sly Stallone's not pulling it as much. Rocky V bombed at the box office, etc. Yeah. It was in a transitory phase, and Mario hit it at the wrong time, or with just the wrong project. We'll study Mario at some point, because I enjoy watching movies just as a general thing. I enjoy discussing movies that are not hits more than I enjoy movies that are hits, or discussing films that are hits. Because when we discuss movies that are hits, it's a giant fucking echo chamber.
Well, sometimes it isn't.
Yeah, I don't.
If you give different perspectives than what you've seen over and over again, the same talking points and blah blah blah, behind the scenes information, things like that, then you're given a different take on it. To me, that's not boring.
True.
We talked about a couple of hit movies, and I don't think it was a.
It wasn't an echo chamber, but I don't want to spend this. I don't want to talk about the same 30 or 40.
No, I like us talking about older movies.
Yeah.
Movies that they don't make now. That I hope we get back to it, though. I really do. I hope we get back to making movies for entertainment again. That's exactly what this was. This is a 100% movie made to entertain the people that came to watch it.
Get you in the seat,
100.
buy some popcorn, bring your mom or grandma or father
or your woman.
Yeah, or your
boyfriend.
lady.
Yeah.
And just enjoy this film. And I think that's what this movie really succeeded the most at, was that it got asses in seats. Is that people saw Shaft and they're like, man, this is a badass motherfucker. And then you had a legion of kids grow up and they wanted to be just like him. And I think largely, this kind of helped shape the dynamic for the next couple decades at least. And this is, probably, I'm trying to think of another blaxploitation or black crude film that would be so innovative. And I really, as much as everybody wants to talk about Mo Better Blues or
What about Color
anything
Purple? Everybody talks about that one. That was, a black movie,
that
basically.
yeah, but that movie is I don't really see that film as being as culturally significant. It definitely is good. Like the only thing I can think of that's more culturally significant than this would be Roots.
Oh
That
yeah,
would
Roots. Yeah, Roots was another one.
Roots,
That's good.
and that would be it. But this film, like it started putting the players on the map, and I'm going to give some credence to Melvin Van Peebles for his Sweet Sweetback, because that movie came out as well during the same year, and it kind of helped set the table for this because MGM only made 3 movies that made any money. You saw the list, right, Janet?
Yeah, I sent it to you, so you can share that.
Yeah.
That.
I'm not really. These things are all findable, people. Please
Okay.
learn to be detectives. Um, MGM was in such bad, dire straits at that time that they were willing to take risks. And Gordon Parks was a director that was a very much a risk-taking director by doing things that were not popular for the studio, but they would make a good movie. And they were kind of worried about him. And once they started to see the dailies, or once they not dailies, but once they started seeing the efforts he was putting in, I don't think they started doing dailies with movies yet. Did they? At what point are we making a movie, and then every day we're shipping a reel off to the production house? And this one would have to be based out of New York, because to fly this from coast to coast every day, that would be expensive.
Mm-hmm.
But when they're starting to see the evidence of what he's got going on, they lay off Gordon. They say, "Okay, please do what you do," and they have confidence in him because the original writer of the story is there with him, and they're making this film together. And they're not going to. The studio is not going to give a shit what the writer thinks. They're banking on the director to know how to make money.
But honestly, the more I think about it, and I read, now I didn't read it, anybody else saying it, I was thinking about it. The fact that the production company only gave them a budget of 500,000, they didn't really think it was going to do as well as it did. Okay, because the money that a production company puts into something tells me how much they think they're going to make off of it. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So if they put millions of dollars into a movie, they expect to make millions. Okay.
Yeah.
This one, they spent 500,000. I'm still shocked. Even in today's standards, at 500,000, that much money, that how good a quality of film it ended up being. I mean, there was a lot of parts about it that reminded me of today. If I saw it today, I would think it was made for TV, just because of the way that they filmed it and the type of story it was and the way they went about doing it. Because the budget is smaller, and you can tell that, but it was still quality. Okay, it wasn't something that looked like, oh, here, just give them some money to make these people happy, so they'll stay off my back, whatever. The director did a good job, and the writer did a good job at making a really good quality film with a tiny amount of money. I mean, it to me, that's, and to get such good people to help with the casting, and all the things that has to go on to get a good quality film like that, the special effects for the shootings and the screams, and just all the different, and the people getting thrown through the window, like the Molotov cocktail he had when he was hanging on the rope, when he busted through the window at the part where they were trying to rescue the girl. The little things like that takes money. All that stuff takes money, and they did a very good job at making it look like they spent way more money on this movie, even though it was only 500,000. And when we were looking at it, that they made 13 million, that's a lot of money considering how cheap the tickets were back then, for only $500,000 being spent. And that's for actors, editing, sound. I mean, everything. You think about it, that is a lot of people. You watch that little thing go down, up and down at the end, all the names going by, those are all people that worked on that film. and it's not even telling you all the extras that didn't get their name in the credits. So the fact that to see all those people and they did it in $500,000 of a budget, I'm shocked by that. I thought it was way more superb for that amount of money.
I'm waiting on Six Nations to pop back in. I'm not certain what's going on, but
yeah, he dropped out a few minutes ago, so
Right.
he might have had a bad signal or whatever. But I thought it was really, really well done.
It was actually a lot better than what I was even close to expecting. Very, very enjoyable film. Just not certain that, like, wow, I've ignored a classic for a long time, and I kind of feel bad about it.
Well, we didn't ignore it. That's what's so good. I love our chat, because our chat always has something cool to say. Hey, have you seen this movie, or have you done this one? And that's why I try to write them down and stuff so that we can put them on our list. But yeah, I was really impressed. But I was looking at some stuff that said the foreign subtitles for the other countries, like in Denmark, it was called Detective in Action. It's just some of these names. I don't know how they do it. And then it was in Norway, it was called Gang War in Harlem. So if you read some of this stuff and you're able to get online, you can see why these other countries look at us the way they do, in awe. Like, wow, those people have guns. Everyone on the street, they're having gunfights. It's like they just think we're the Wild West of the world, basically. When you go and you see some of the comments made by these other people from other countries, even people today. I've got a lot of British friends, and I talk to them, and they're going on and on and on about how we all have guns, that they're shocked how many guns we have. And I'm like, well, there's a lot of people here, and we have a lot of guns, but not every person in the United States has a weapon in their house. So
one of my favorite films actually approaches that, and they discuss 1 in 12 Americans have a firearm in their home or accessible, and then Nick Cage says it's my goal to get all the other 11 in that 12 to buy a gun. Welcome back, Six Nations. How's the weather over there?
I think the Chinese are dropping anchors and ruining my.
Okay, they say it was going to be raining over your side for a little bit.
Yeah, what was it? An atmospheric river that they said that the West Coast was going to get and experience wet weather for a couple of days.
Very, very fascinating film. If you've not seen Shaft yet, I give her a good recommendation of the movie. It's a good casual film. If you look at it and don't think of when it was made, but you're just turning it on, you might even think it was a made-for-TV movie because of all the common techniques that are used in this movie are used so heavily today. And you get a real sense of authenticness from the cameraman. That's the one thing I just love this movie about that. This is one of those films, like if I ever become like an internationally known drug dealer with like a 15-room home, one of the rooms in the sunken living room area is going to have a giant 20-foot wide television screen. I'm just going to have Shaft playing over and over because the themes and the look and the look of New York and all the wood paneling just makes me feel so good inside. Anyway, I know that sounds bad, and I don't want to be an internationally well-known drug dealer. I don't want to be a drug dealer. But I just said, like, if I ever have a stupidly opulent house, that would be like the movie I'd want to have on a TV screen whenever somebody comes in. Oh, we're going to deal in some negotiations. Okay, fine. Shaft. Mr. Roundtree, get on television. Thank you. And do that. And just because I'm culturally enriched. I think this movie is fucking great. This is one of the better movies to come out of the 70s. And of the noir genre, Tiedemann, the guy that wrote this, he wrote The French Connection.
Really?
And he wrote other other good movies as well. So I'm going to stick with
There's
my
a thing
current
going
theme
on
on
there.
things. Yeah, he's good at what he does. This movie, like it's really like it's an easy win. Um, if you're in the chat and you've seen Shaft 1971 before, put your rating of it in the chat, and we'll have Janet read it off to you. Next week, we are going to be watching a film called Hoodwinked. I'm not familiar with this film, but our friend, the Crafting Gamer, has talked about it and wants us to review it. So we'll have him as part of our
I don't
force.
think I've seen that.
Either have I.
Who's in it?
I
want to say that I have. It's the
when we were doing a movie
CGI
review, I found out. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
film about Red Riding Hood.
It looks
I
like
wanna
a
get where the,
2005 independent CGI movie,
Yeah,
and it's retells Little Red Riding Hood as a police procedural movie using backstories to show multiple character points.
Okay, I don't think I even saw a trailer for that.
Budget was $8 million. Box office was 110.
all right.
That sounds like it did. Yeah, did pretty good. Pat Warburton is the wolf. Jim Belushi.
Is it a comedy?
Don't know.
I liked him in Sahara.
We'll find out. It's a comedy film.
Jim.
I really like Pat Warburton.
So if any of you are not familiar with the whole blaxploitation genre, I would say watch Coffee, watch Superfly. Those are like the three big ones.
Superfly.
And others that will get you hooked too. I don't know how overstream without riling one side or the other, because after all, it's Black History Month, and me being of a fair, I don't have my N card, so Management Negro would be another one. Another one. Blackenstein. And don't care about budget. Like, there's a whole slew. Just look up blaxploitation films, top 20, top 30, whatever, top 1, and go down the list.
There was a
And
movie
you'll be amazed.
that had, I can't remember the name of the actress. Let me look it up.
Jackie Brown.
Hold on.
Jackie Brown's great.
Ray Liotta starred in it.
Somebody.
Do you remember the movie?
Sam Greer.
I'll wait till you finished.
You're cutting out Six Nations.
Continue.
There was a movie that came out with Ray Liotta, okay, and he fell in love with a black woman, and it was in the time where black and white weren't supposed to be publicly, together. And it was a love story, and it was really, really well done. I wouldn't mind watching that one, but I'm going to look it up real quick and tell you what it was called, because I don't remember the name of it. But my mom loved it. She thought it was a really good movie, and I liked it.
Called Karina.
Yeah, Karina. Have you seen it?
It's got Whoopi in it.
It's Whoopi Goldberg. I don't care. It's very well done.
Okay.
I don't even like, there's a lot of actresses I don't like, but they're good actresses in the movie that they were in. And I can look past that sometimes, depending on the only one woman's movies that I will not watch. I only watched one movie that she was 9 to 5 and she was in it, was Jane Fonda. Because my dad did not like her. He said that she was a treasonous hag that shouldn't be allowed in America for throwing our soldiers under the bus. So I don't know exactly what she did, but she did something, and my dad didn't like her. So that was the only movie I remember watching that Jane Fonda was in.
I'm typing in
Where I paid for a ticket. So, but Whoopi Goldberg was in Ghost too, and I thought she did a pretty good job in that movie, and in Sister Act and a bunch of movies. She was a really good actress. It's just that it's sad that as she got older, she became more of a racist and hates white people. Even though maybe it's because she had a bad marriage with a white man. I mean, I don't know. I don't know why she became a racist, but she hates white people and she acts like she hates white people. So, I've never done anything to a black person, and I don't have any problem with blacks. I just don't like murderers, rapists, and child molesters. I don't care what skin color they have.
Yeah, that's most of everybody. I think 99% of us can agree with that.
Yeah.
You ever seen the Mac?
I never even heard of it. Sorry.
Six Nations?
Yes.
Would you say that would be involved in the top 30?
I would say, yeah.
Okay.
And that came out in 73, if I remember correctly.
With Max Julien and Richard Pryor.
So it's around the same. Anything with Richard Pryor. I missed that.
Yeah, there's a part of True Romance where they're talking with the pimp about that right before the fight happens. You guys like, there's some titties on screen. You even stared at the titties. What's wrong with you? He's looking right at me. What are you trying to do here? Yeah, the Mac. We'll have to watch that. Not a movie for kids, mind you. All right.
Well, unless if you want to be a pimp, watch the Mac.
Yeah, Sweetback. I think I want to look at that because I like Mario Van Peebles, and that movie was released right before this came out, and it was helping build up towards this tsunami of new talent getting brought into the East and West Coast movie production centers. I mean, without Sweetback, without Shaft, you wouldn't have the cultural phenomenon happen later.
There's another movie called Spawn that we could watch. Have you seen it?
And to circle back,
I would much rather watch the HBO specials of Spawn than the TV or the
movie wasn't too bad. Could have been way worse. Like that one movie that I don't want to watch.
Okay. I will watch Street Fighter 94 before I watch Spawn.
I don't even know what that is. So
I like Raul Julia. His entire reason for being in that movie was to make a movie that his kid would watch over and over again. Mm-hmm. You know, his dad loved him. Spawn is not a bad movie. It's a poorly made movie.
Mm-hmm.
That's
part of the charm, I feel, is that it's not well made.
I like the clown, mm-hmm. and I like the mentor, Nicole. What was his name? He was
Nikolai.
He was in Excalibur as Merlin.
Mm-hmm. And I can't remember. I can't remember what his name is, but I know who you're talking about.
Yeah. I will definitely hold on.
Oh, that was shit. Nicole Williamson, wasn't
I
it?
think so. Hey, Memes of Destruction. How you doing, sir?
But I was going to circle back. If you watch the soundtrack is done by Motown great. So
yes,
if you dig Motown, it's worth seeing.
yeah, I don't know, and I mean, not that I really don't want to say we did this on the 2nd of February for Black History Month, but there's been enough talk about like blaxploitation. I love blaxploitation films. There's a lot of them that I've seen. There's a lot of them I need to see, but I was talking about Fred Williamson's career a couple weeks ago, and I want to really watch his stuff, but I don't really think it'd be proper to go into that without first getting into Shaft. And because everybody remembers Shaft, like that was the movie that like everybody saw, and then whenever you turn on TBS in the late 70s, early 80s, or whatever was USA was what was on. Shaft would be on like a Saturday afternoon. You have Shaft, and they edited the shit out of it. When CBS aired this movie, they cut out 25 minutes to make it proper and fit their network narrative. Blah blah blah, whatever. Willie Hutch did a number of soundtracks in those days. Didn't you say he just passed on Six Nations?
No, but he in like 05, I think.
Okay.
It was, I want to say about 20 years ago or something like that.
He did the wah wah guitar?
It was Skip Pitts.
Skip Pitts.
Charles
right.
Skip Pitts.
Yeah, that for some odd reason when I
Driving riff.
like the first 3 minutes of this movie, I was just watching it going, oh my God, that's 42nd Street. And then like you see all these movie theaters pass through on this isometric angle. And it's almost the perfect Dutch angle. And then up from the subway, here comes Shaft. And the movie's still grooving. It's got its little beats going on. But then once the lyrics of the song start, it's almost like you're in the car with them and you're going. And that's what it really felt like to me. And this was my first time watching the film. Please forgive me, but this movie, more people should watch Shaft.
Well, I wanted to read something I found. It took me a minute to find it again in my notes because I had like 3 sets of notes. It says pulp culture urban legends. There is a surprisingly durable legend that John Shaft was a white man in the original novel until Gordon Parks cast Richard Roundtree. This seems to be jumbled retelling of Melvin Van Peebles' claim that the success of Sweetback's Badass song changed Shaft from a white film to a black one. In fact, Shaft was already being filmed when Sweet was released. So it had nothing to do with that and that's why they put a black person in there. So that is not true. And that's why I said everything I read didn't say anything about it being, they didn't like black people or whatever it was, why they did it. It says there may be some truth behind this because there is a rumor that MGM originally wanted to adapt the novel with a white lead. Remember what I said about that? All production companies want to make money, put people in the seat. So, but they're not looking at it because they don't really pay that much attention to how the script goes and all that kind of stuff. That's why they hire a director.
They didn't read the book. They have no idea.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The production company will say they want a big star. And at that time, in that year, Clint Eastwood and all those people like that were the big stars. So the fact that they picked Roundtree, which had only been in commercials, he'd never been in any kind of TV series or anything. that they put him in this movie was shocking, but the casting director did a phenomenal job at picking someone that fit this character to a T. He did a fabulous job. His sideburns, I mean, everything about him, he aired masculinity. And he was attractive to white women, as Hispanic women, Asian women. I don't care who you are. If you're a woman and you saw him in a TV ad or a commercial or a magazine, or you saw him on the street or even in this movie, you would think he's attractive. I mean, how would you not? He's very masculine. It comes across. That's why I said, I hope that in the future, in the soon future, within the next year or so, we're going to start seeing more scripts written that tells people I'm a man and I'm macho and I like being a man. And look at me, I'm gonna cut down trees or whatever it is, and that women should wear heels and look attractive and walk down the street. What guys are catcalling her? There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with men being men and women being women. I want to get back to that and tell stories for entertainment and not try to cram an agenda down our throats. Once they start doing that again, guess what? We're going to start having blockbusters again. People are going to start wanting to buy tickets to go to a movie or to download it at their house to watch it. They still can make money making movies and TV series and stuff strictly on the basis of like Magnum PI. I mean, you wouldn't even have seen that remade because that was totally masculinity, you know, and they exploited women in skimpy outfits and stuff, just like what was that, Baywatch? And they used to make tons of shows using men as men and women as women. And they had gays in it too. They had lesbians and they had gays. There was nothing wrong with it. But they were good looking and it made people want to watch it. You see, I want to get back to that where we can be happy to say, hey, I'm going to go watch this. This so-and-so's hot and he's going to be in this movie. Or, you know, whatever. There's nothing wrong with that. If it's a good, entertaining film and it keeps you sitting your ass in a chair for 2 hours, then it was worth making it. People will buy tickets. But to go there and after 10 minutes of the film, you start being told that, you know, you have to accept their point of view, it turns you off. And guess what? I ain't going to buy another ticket and I'm not going to tell people to go see it. And word of mouth makes movies a big success and a person going to see the movie more than once. That's how they make blockbusters, and I want to start seeing them again. And we will if we go back to this type of filmmaking where you take a story and you like the characters, you make them believable like everyday people, unless it's a sci-fi or a comedy and it's supposed to be, you know, whatever it is. But if you want an action film, you have to have something, you have to have believable characters where people will actually want to see it and sit in the seat and watch it. Look at these guys.
I miss that style of filmmaking. Like you get like 7 or 8, you know, spots where they're going to film. Make sure they do an excessive curve. And
I never heard of this human tornado. Never heard of it.
Neither have I. But this is the same man we just watched. That's Rudy Ray Moore.
Mm-hmm.
No, that's not the same man we watched. My bad. He's most known to me by the there's a much better scene he does. There we go. This was shown to me by Red Letter Media.
Mm-hmm.
I fucking love it. God bless Rudy Ray Moore. Fucking amazing. Richard Roundtree would kick my ass. He heard me about 2 minutes ago, but man, I love the 70s noir films, no matter who's in it. They're cheesy as shit, formulaic, they're fun.
I mean, look at the career that Clint Eastwood was able to make off of cheesy B-rate movies.
Yeah.
Okay, well, all those spaghetti westerns, isn't a spaghetti western mean it's B-rate?
Yeah.
Okay, all the ones he made tons of movies, and lots of lines, one-liners come from Clint Eastwood. go ahead, make my day. Everyone knows what that is. Just like I'll be back. Everybody knows what that means. I mean, I want to get back to that. I want to get back to where you're walking down the street in Las Vegas with thousands of people in the street, and you can bump into somebody and say something, and they're going to say, I know that movie. And you get a high five because you all know what it means. And we don't have that. We don't have anything like that because we haven't had a good movie in a long time, and they're not writing any good ones. They're
What is
remaking
an interesting case is like
over and over again.
he almost quit the entire industry until he got his chance at Rawhide, and then he started doing westerns, and then he had to break free of that because he didn't want to get typecast, and so he's constantly evolving himself as a director, as an actor, all of that. But it was interesting because like back in the early 90s when he did Unforgiven, he kind of like went back to his roots, and it was full circle from back in the day to that. Evolved from like a young cowpoke to this grizzled old gunfighter, and basically reinvented the Western. Then we got Tombstone and Wyatt Earp and these Shaft, etc. They're in a similar vein where they show you what it's like from the point of view, and even though they're low budget, it grips you. You want to watch it, and then like and you're sitting there, and for that moment, all the BS that we deal with today, and you're just wrapped up in the moment of the film.
I'd be happy to do
And
that.
Have you guys ever went to a film festival?
I've been to South by Southwest.
Okay, they had lots of shorts and things like that, but it's just a kaleidoscope basically of lots of different genres, and you can pick and choose which ones you want to see. And sometimes you're surprised about how good something might be, and you never know. Something that you see at one of those festivals might end up becoming a big blockbuster movie, that they take a short and make it into a full length movie. I know a lot of people have watched YouTube videos and they made a short. Like there's one that came out, it was years ago, and you see a person turn the light off in the hallway, and they think they see something, they flick it back on, and then there's nothing there. And then they turn it off, and then all of a sudden they flick it back on, and then it's nothing there again. And then when they flick it on the very last time, that the monster is right in their face because it's coming down the hallway. So, I mean, it's just a person that the guys that made, I'm trying to remember the name of it, The Devil's Due or something like that. There was like 3 friends or whatever that made a short. And then the production company said, hey, we want you to make this into a movie. And they let those guys direct the movie. They were all the directors, all of them. So you just never know. But the thing is, we've got to get back to where we're making new stuff. I'm tired. I don't want to see Spider-Man 27,
No, the 30th fucking reboot of Spider-Man, because
that's what I mean.
It's enough.
Told again instead of something where like Lord of the Rings. The director that did Lord of the Rings was a genius, because what he did was he got everyone to sign up for a 3-movie contract. Okay, so you had all the same actors, so the story flowed through the 3 movies, and it was huge and it was great. But when you get somebody to make a movie and they make it and it makes a lot of money, and instead of making another one or a series off of it, or going and looking for another script that has nothing to do with anything that you've seen yet, they go and they take the script that they already own, made money. So even if they only make half the amount of money, they don't care. They're only thinking about making money. That's it. Unless it's an agenda. When it's an agenda, they expect to lose money on it. But I don't know. I'm hoping they're getting tired of losing money, and they're going to start making movies again where people want to go see them because they're entertaining. Instead of saying, I want to go see a movie, so I can get it crammed down my
throat. It's probably not going to happen.
I know, that's what I'm saying. And once that happens, start getting good stuff. That's why I'm hoping that because of the way things are slowly unfolding with streaming and more people making their own content and taking it away. Because look at CNN is finally firing people. So some of these channels are finally getting rid of people because they're realizing it's dead weight, that we can't, that our advertisers are leaving because we just can't hold them up anymore. We can't pretend that we have viewers that we don't, that kind of stuff. So once they stop doing it, like Facebook is dying. I mean, it's crumbling. They're losing tons of stuff, especially now that the truth came out about them lying and censoring people, like what I told my story about why I left, about the whole Antifa and the police officer picture. And I left because they are biased against me because I was a conservative, and they're blatant about it. And they didn't give a shit. They didn't care about me. But guess what? I guarantee if you go type in Janet Lynn, you're going to pop up and you see me in a blue dress, even though I deleted it. It's still there because they want the people buying ads to think that there's still people on there, even though I haven't had any contact on there since 2020. But it's sad. I want to see the industry for entertainment to come back to entertainment instead of it being like, I don't know. I saw this comedian and he was talking about that song, Baby It's Cold Outside, with Tom Jones and this other British singer. And they were singing that and they were talking about it. And he's saying how they're saying it's a horrible, degrading against women song, right? So this funny comedian reads off some of the lines, and then he says, and this is the #1 song this last year that won all these awards. And it's like, oh baby, I'm gonna pump you from the behind, all this, because it's really nasty and perverted, but that's okay. But this old song that says, baby, it's cold outside, maybe I just have one cigarette more, or whatever type thing, that's degrading, but this other one isn't. It's ridiculous. It's so lopsided, only because certain people in place push that stuff, just like we're finding out with the whole P. Diddy stuff. The P. Diddy stuff is showing that P. Diddy blackmailed people and DJs to where you either play my people's music or we're going to put these pictures out about you. So they would just take the stuff that was shit, instead of playing the new people to come up, they just played the same songs over and over again and make you want to go out and buy them because you thought it was a hit song, even if it wasn't very good. A lot of people are starting to open their own eyes and start saying, hey, that was crap. I'm not going to go watch it again. And hopefully start making their own decision instead of thinking, oh, I have to go see it because everybody else is going to see it. Like that stupid Barbie movie. I never paid one dime to go see it. I don't care if other people liked it. Great. That's great for them. But my money wasn't going to go to pay for something where I feel like they were trying to cram an agenda down my throat. I want to go pay my money to go see like the Addams Family, something else. I'm going to spend my money elsewhere. And if we do that and we start taking our wallet away from them, guess what? We'll start getting what we want. But until then, if you keep paying for the NFL, even though you don't watch the opening Pledge of Allegiance or whatever it is, the singing or whatever, or because they take a knee or they don't stand, they just stand there and disgrace our flag because they have no respect for our country, and you want to keep watching their games, well, I won't. If I find out that they're doing anything like that, I won't turn the TV on and give them 1 second of my money from advertising, because I do care and I do try to make a difference. And I'm just one person, but we did it when it came to Bud Light because enough people were pissed off enough that they said, F you, Bud Light, and they stopped buying it. Didn't go to any of this places in any of the ball games or football games or other things. And they lost money and they went, shit, we got to do something. And they did something. But as long as we're lazy and we still flick that remote and watch those stupid shows, even though we know we're making them famous, then we deserve what we get. That's what people keep saying. Why do they keep voting for those people? Well, you're voting for them with a click of a remote control by watching games and knowing that these players disrespect America. They hate our flag. They preach death to America because they want you to root for the Hamas, and shit like that. And if you're going to give them your money, then, I hope you're happy when they bomb your house, because that's what's going to happen sooner or later, because you can't say one thing and do something else and expect anything to get better.
No.
So it's on us. Until we
I was
say
going to go off on Spider-Man.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Since you guys had mentioned the Marvel blur of movies where they're just churning out endless movies, and I was just thinking, I saw the remake, Andrew something or other, with the Lizard Man.
With Andrew Garfield?
The last one that I saw. Yeah. And that's okay. I wasn't like, I grew up raised on Spider, the 1967 cartoon.
Oh, wow.
The 70s movies, live action.
I remember those.
The Electric Company.
I remember
where he
those.
didn't talk, but he always got the bad guy. And then
Except for the Queen Bee. He did not get the Queen Bee.
And in the early 2000s when it came out, I was like, oh, this is Sam Raimi directed. Like, so, yeah, like you gotta, they shove at you. Enjoy movies and find something that you like or something that you haven't seen but you're interested in. Don't get stuck in the echo chamber and the tribalism that they're trying to foist on us. Broaden your horizon. We've got a back catalog of stuff to go after, and look for the independent, the people that are streaming their items. They got a full-length movie. Take some toll worth it.
Well, I just want to say thank you. Was it your idea to watch this Six Nations?
Actually, it was Bruce's.
Oh, it was? Okay, I didn't know. Well,
I'm all for it.
I was thankful. It was good. I was pleasantly surprised how much I liked it.
I like this. Janet?
I haven't.
Yeah, go ahead with that. What do you feel about it?
Well, it's up there in the mid 70s. I mean, soundtrack alone, iconic. Every parody that you've seen in the last 20 years has referenced Shaft. Either that or Superfly. Those were like the two major contenders. Earlier, when I said that Jackie Brown was homage to in blaxploitation, Quentin Tarantino always loved her in her films, and she's a great actress, super hot, and she was kicking ass in a lot of those films. And
the worst movie
and
she ever was in.
See these people that groundbreaking cinema in the early 70s, throughout the 70s into the 80s, and the film or television, and you're like, oh my God, that's so-and-so from whatever that was. Like Richard Roundtree. Blaxploitation movies. And then From Dusk Till Dawn, he plays the Viet kicking ass hand to hand with
No, that was Fred Williamson.
or was that Fred Williamson? That's right.
Yes, sir.
Oh shit. Same
We're good.
difference though.
We
But
know who we're talking about.
Do you have
Black-
a list of other movies that Roundtree's been in?
We've got IMDb.
Okay.
You can go through that.
Okay.
That's a qualified guy. I mean, to go through and see what films he was in shortly after this, like the next 6 years, was kind of like him just throwing money in the bank because that's what he was doing. He did some other films later on. He was actually in one of the other Shaft movies with Sam Jackson, and that was supposed to be a father-son movie. I'm not certain if that's true or not, but that's what I heard from a friend of mine that saw it. Like, what? Who's this? You don't know Shaft? No, I don't. Man. Okay.
I've heard people talking about it for many, many years, but I just never went to see it or rent it or anything. Just had no reason to. I mean,
It's okay because, like I said, I mean, I'd see this movie on the shelves of Stars and Stripes and then Blockbuster and Hollywood Video, and I just never picked it up. It was always on their classics. They would always say for a weekend rental, take this. It's a classic movie, and I never picked it up. And then I'd see it on sale at Walmart a couple times, and I never picked it up. It was just amazing. I believe Roundtree also did the TV series that was short-lived as well. I mean, he just wanted to be grafted to the character.
Yeah, it was a handful of episodes.
well, I found something else. It was according to a modern interview with Ernest Tideman's son, the author was dismayed with the changes made for the film, which he co-wrote the screenplay, as he felt the studio was trying too hard in an unauthentic way to make Shaft more ethnic.
Okay.
That was where he had a problem with it. It was saying, because he thought it already was. He thought it was already really well done to portray what he felt gave you a glimpse into that area of New York, basically.
Okay. I mean,
So and that was from the son, and I'm sure he's talked with his dad for a lot, more than anyone else that just interviewed him a few times would know. But I found that. I thought that's why I'm still going through all my. Because see, in Greece, the movie was called The Black Panther. In Japan, it was called Black Jaguar. And in Turkey, it was called Fearless. Taiwan, it was called Panther. So in French and Spanish, the Red Knights of Harlem. So they change it around. I'd love to see some of these movie posters. That would be interesting. But people don't realize how much work it takes to actually to get our films to other countries, because you have to go through their rules and regulations that they have on their countries. Like Canada, there's a lot of stuff that they're not even allowed to watch on YouTube. They had a lot of YouTube stuff blocked for people in Canada and other countries.
I'd like to make a shout out to NordVPN. Thank you. Just kidding. Use a VPN. You use whatever VPN you want, people.
But I just think it's interesting to read, because that's historical basically, and the fact that they put this in our historical documents, basically, that isn't that what they called it in the movie Galaxy Quest? They said we saw all your historical documents.
All the historical documents, yes.
Yeah. So basically, who knows? Like I've heard people say, if you have a transgender, okay, and they die and they're buried and they're dug up, 1,000 years from now, someone's going to see them and they're not going to see it as a woman. They're going to look at the bones and say, this is a man. So, history is going to tell the truth. It doesn't matter how much plastic surgery. They'll have two rubber things laying in there, silicone boobs. But they won't know, why they're in there, because they'll say, why would a man have those? You see? So it's going to be interesting one day for our great ancestors to see some of the things that we went through in history simply from our fossils. It's like we do with animals all the time. But I just think it's and this was another thing I said. The film explores themes of including masculinity and sexuality with a specific emphasis on Black power. It was filmed in Harlem, Greenwich Village, and Times Square within the Manhattan borough of New York City.
Yeah, there was some people that were upset that they showed him being from Harlem, but he moved to Greenwich Village.
Mm-hmm.
But there was also the fact that, like, when you've lived in a crappy neighborhood for a while and you finally start to make money, you want to get out of the crappy neighborhood,
Mm-hmm.
and I can understand that, because I hate my apartment. Whenever I make it, we're out of here. We're in a house.
Yeah, but honestly, in real life, I could tell you right now, if you sat down with 30 people that live in Harlem, and they were entrepreneurs, or they're going to school, and they maybe want to be a movie writer, or they want to be a doctor or a lawyer, all of them are going to say they're not going to live in Harlem after they get their career.
Yeah.
So the fact that some people would say that would be somebody who's pissed off or angry because they're stuck in a environment they can't get out of. Like either a lot of people, that are in and out of drugs, or in and out of alcohol, or other addictions and things like that. They shoplift and they keep getting arrested. I mean, there's lots of reasons why people aren't successful. They have a baby, right out of high school, or why they're in high school. So it changes their future. And then they basically have a albatross around their neck. They're stuck. So those people, I can see why they're bitter. But see, that's why our country is the best country in the world. Honestly, even under Obama and under Biden, we were still better than most countries, because we offer programs for people like that. If you're an unwed mother, you can have a daycare for your kid and get subsidies to pay your way through college, so you can make something of yourself. But what happens is they take the money, they squander it, and they get weaves put in and get their nails done, and then they have 2 more kids. So I'm tired of seeing people blame the white people, or the rich people, or other people for the problems and choices they made. I mean, I've not made excellent choices in my life. So I've made mistakes, but when I realized, wow, no one's going to help me go to the gym. No one's going to help me lose weight. No one's going to help me. I have to do it. Sooner or later, you have to start making decisions for yourself, and just realize that you're in the situation maybe because of choices you've made, and that's why you're there. And until we start saying, oh, well, I got to own up to it. I gotta realize I'm in a situation because I've chose not to do anything about it. If I could move, I would. If I could do this, I would. And do it, instead of saying I would, but you coulda, you woulda. But it's the same thing. So it's the same thing with movies or anything. We have to be the one to start saying, I have to do it. And once we start making people accountable for their actions, like if you have a kid that's constantly beating up their friends at school, or kids at school, stealing, not coming home, doing all this stuff, and you still bought them a truck, you still give them a cell phone, you still have a laptop, you give them money all the time, then you're feeding the kid to keep doing it. You're not trying to stop the kid from becoming a thug and a criminal, basically. So when a kid first starts acting up, you make them stand in the corner. You take their toys from them. Whatever it is that you have to do, you do it. I remember when my little girl was in her little walker, and I'd take her somewhere, and we'd be at someone's house, and she'd start reaching for something on the coffee table, and I'd say no. And then she'd look at me, and she'd go to reach anyways, and I go, no. And then she'd cry, but I barely touched her. She'd cry, and they would say, oh, that's horrible. You shouldn't hit your kid's hand. They don't know any better. I go, well, how are they supposed to learn if you don't teach them? See? It's like you teach your kid how to sew so they can fix holes in their socks or their pants, how to cook, boil water, make an egg, things like that. So when they do move out, they can actually feed themselves and wash their clothes and balance their checkbook and do all these things because they can do things for themselves, because we as a parent want your child to be prepared to what happens if you're not there anymore. What if you die? How are they going to feed themselves? How are they going to do anything for themselves? We have to start making our kids self-efficient to where they can take care of themselves when you are not around anymore. And that's what we haven't been doing. We have been coddling these kids. They can't do anything. They cannot do any. It's sad. I look around and I see so many kids that can't cook or make a sandwich, mix a lemonade. I mean, it's really sad. It's scary to think about it. If they didn't have a phone and say Uber Eats, I'm like, and you're paying $25 for a lunch that you could have made for yourself for $5. It's, I don't know. It's, to me, I'm sorry I went on a rant. But
Oh, you're good. You're good. Conversating with one of the guys in the chat, and it's like, oh, I want to argue with her. Well, she's on you. She's on Twitter.
I'm on X.
Yeah. And the thing is that, like, we're all going to have different opinions and different experiences and such.
Mhm.
And the worst part about all of this is that no matter where you're at, people are going to, like, before you open your mouth and get, hi, how are you out? Like, they've already made up some semblance of an opinion.
Mhm.
It just based on your appearance, immutable objects, immutable things.
Mhm.
Like, if you met me 10 years ago when I was a little bit more svelte and not quite as portly because sedentary lifestyle and being a truck driver, you'd probably feel a little bit less like, oh, wow, look, a short, fat guy. Anyway, the main thing is that I really was impressed with how this film was made, was designed, and was pushed out, and how the studio trusted Gordon Parks to do the right thing and make a film that had not truly been done before. Now, there's
Mhm.
4 other movies that were made before this that are officially called blaxploitation films. There might be other movies that have similar themes, but they're not really recognized as that. I want to say Sweet Ass Song is like number 3 or 4. But that came out earlier in 71.
Yeah, and this movie was being filmed when that movie came, or that came out. So,
Melvin Van Peebles had a lot to say about this movie,
mhm.
and he didn't really have any degradations about it. He didn't really complain about it much. Roundtree, over the course of time, he didn't want to be typecast as Shaft. He wanted to be able to do other parts. But eventually, like I said, he came back, and in his older years, he's like, I made my bones because of Shaft. I got to be thankful. So I'm really happy that we had a chance to see this movie, and I understand why they threw it in the Library of Congress for cultural significance and for historical significance.
Mhm.
I'm hoping that we get to more of a period. I'm hoping we get to a period like what we had in the late 80s, where we could have a variety show, like, and I'm call it a variety show because it's not really a sitcom,
Mhm.
in living color. I want that to come back because we had some really funny shit come out of the years that was on TV. Now,
Mhm.
they can take Jennifer Lopez back. I don't think anybody wants to claim that one. She's really not talented. She has a fat ass. That's it. That's not a talent. That's just a appearance and mutable characteristic, just like I'm white or Italian. I don't care. Uh, I just want to go back to the period where we can have comedy again and we can hang out and do shit again.
Mhm. Well, I love your living
The
color.
Learning Tree. That was the film with what's his face from the Mod Squad, Kyle Johnson.
Learning
Wasn't it?
Tree.
The Learning Tree. Yeah.
I'll definitely have to check this out. All right, off to
Kyle
IMDb.
Johnson
Go
was
ahead.
in
You
it.
guys talk amongst yourselves.
Um, well, what were you going to say? Six Nations?
Oh, I was just commenting on the comment about the Learning Tree. That was I think Kyle Johnson, who was in the Mod Squad.
Kyle Johnson.
What else was it? Greatest Story Ever Told. And I can't remember. I'm gonna say earlier that what was it? Totally forgot.
Holy cow!
Give me a
Gordon Parks. Gordon Roger Alexander Buchanan Parks lived from 1912 to March of 2006. Dude was in his 93rd orbit around the sun when this came around. Now, because of who he was, where he was born, a lot of his material had like he focused a lot on like just basically civil rights, poverty, African Americans, and then he started angling towards glamour photography. And is like he made his bones, it looks like, through just photojournalism from like the World War II era into the 1970s before he just started directing. And he is best remembered of the iconic photos of poor Americans during the 40s taken for a federal government project and photographic essays for Life magazine. Damn. He's also one of the first Black American filmmakers to deal with films within the Hollywood system, and he helped lay down the blueprint for the individuals that would follow in his footsteps. National Film Registry cites The Learning Tree as the first feature film by a Black director to be financed by a major Hollywood studio. That is fucking awesome.
Mm-hmm. But see,
Damn.
I 100% believe in that. If a person wants to do something and they start out with a little cell phone or whatever, and they're making their own little videos, okay, and then they get with their friends and they get their friends to dress up, like that one film you got me to watch, Gamers Darkness Rising.
Yeah.
Okay, just a bunch of friends that had a story that they wanted to make into a movie, and they scratched together every penny they could, and they had friends that donated food and whatever else to make this because they had the drive to do something. And that's what I want to see. I want to see more young people say, I want to be a director, or I want to be a makeup artist, or I want to be a sculptor, or whatever it is that they want to do, and do whatever it takes to do those things. And if they had, like me, I had to work after school, and I had a job on the weekends, and we had to make money. That's how I paid for my own annual when I graduated from high school, because we didn't have money. We had a 3-bedroom, 1-bath house with 5 kids. Okay, so I'm just saying, I understand what that's like in the South, and we didn't have much, and we had to ride the bus to school. We couldn't afford a car for any of us girls, and when we did use a car and we learned to drive, it was our parents. We had to borrow, but we had rules. We had to be home at a certain time. We had to do our chores. We had to do our homework. We had to do all these things, and a parent loves her kid. All your parents do the best they can to give you what they could give you, or your grandmother, or whoever it was that raised you. That's because they love you and they want to see you be successful. But every person has something they want to do. They have a desire. They see a movie or a movie star or a doctor or a lawyer or something, and they think, I want to do that when I grow up. And we as parents need to encourage our kids to do whatever we can and try to help them be successful in whatever it is they want to do. But when you tell your kid you're never going to be able to do that, you're never going to amount to anything because you have no money. You're nobody. That type of thing. There's tons of programs through our government to get scholarships and stuff. I know. I lived in New Orleans. Okay, I lived in Metairie. There's tons of stuff, and I would go with a lot of my friends and go out and just face paint. We would face paint people's faces at the parades or at the festivals and things like that. There's tons of ways to make a little bit of money here and there. And guess what we did that money? That was to make a small little homemade film, a short for that girl to take around to other people and show them her short that she made because she wrote and directed it. Okay. And you will do it. If you have friends that believe in you and you help your friends, then they should want to help you be successful in whatever it is you do. And if we get more people to start saying we have to support each other, Like I'm always saying, we can all win, and we'll all have so much more diversity and more culture, more things to look back on and say, see, we did that. We worked together and we were able to be successful, and we can do that in anything. I really do believe that. And that's all because of my mother. My dad was gone a lot because he was in the military, and she had to take care of everything. She took care of the bills, the kids, traveling, anything that we had to do. My mom did it, and she had a full-time job. So I just really respect my mom, and there's lots of women out there like that, single moms that are trying to raise their kids and do the best they can. But when you have to ask for help, sometimes it's embarrassing, to ask, can I get some help with my food, or or help pay my electric bill? I can't afford it. But that's why I've been in lots of different organizations to try to help get money for that, and go door to door and ask people to donate to different charities and things like that. And it's hard because a lot of people don't want to do it. They're embarrassed, but I'll do it. I'll help people. I've helped lots of people, try to raise money for different projects, for animals, for a daycare, battered women's shelter. I used to do a lot of stuff for that, because we can't put those people out there because they're hiding, they're in hiding. So we would go out and do the stuff and then take the money to the person running it. And we never had to go there because we don't want to put anyone at risk of someone finding them. So it's a lot of things you have to do without anyone even knowing, because you can't let people know who's getting the money. So I can understand there's a lot of secrecy when it comes to those type of things, like drug addiction and porn addiction, all those different things, because people don't want their name out there, but they want help. And it's hard to find good people to help you that aren't going to go out there and spread your name all over the place because, it's going to get me 15 more clicks or whatever, So and that's hard. It's hard to trust people anymore. So, but honest, sitting down and talking to other people and trying to work things out and figure out a good way to do it, to me, that's the best way to go about doing anything.
Well,
that's why you ended up with this great movie. Somebody believed in someone else and gave them the money to do it. And look how good it was.
I was impressed. I'll say that much. I was not expecting this. But once I started seeing the film and started seeing everything, and they started showcasing Harlem, like one of my first movies, one of the first things I remember when I was a little kid was there was a TV show really popular called Different Strokes, and you would see the skyline of New York at the start of the show, and then you would see like some little, sometimes they showcase Harlem in that, and you would like Harlem was a big thing in the late 70s, and that's when I had my first memories, because they would always throw, like, at the time there was a big cultural push to try to get like some form of parody throughout society. And so you'd always have like Muhammad Ali talking to the kids on Sesame Street or talking to the puppets about things, and just like being, they would bring out guys that could mentor at least for 13 or 14 minutes or less, get them on TV, and they would have that. And you always had these really good, I mean, the 70s, for fuck's sake, was like a feel good time where they would always try to throw like the happy smile on things. Even though life wasn't that great, we're still trying to get our guys out of Vietnam or get the POWs out of Vietnam. There was always just some really interesting, introspective stuff going on to where we just wanted a happier, healthier nation. And I wasn't from a big city. I lived in the middle of the country with cows and 12 dogs on the rental lot my parents had. And that was my life. I had just, I would watch Sesame Street, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, then I'd be outside. I would be outside collecting fleas and petting dogs and just running around the neighborhood, or not the neighborhood, the acreage, and just doing stupid stuff, because that's all I did. And that was fun. But that was also like single digit age, before the age of kindergarten. But I remember on TV, they would always throw that material out there. And it was a big cultural phenomenon at the time. That was, you hear the wah wah guitar and you're like, oh, it's going to be a movie for adults. I will watch as much as I can, and they'll shoo me out of here. And sure enough, every one of these movies that was like this, I'd see like the first 2 or 3 minutes, a little bit of the opening credits, music, and then I'd be shoved out. So I always wanted to see these movies all the way through. I never did see it until like, wait a second, Shaft. Why not watch Shaft? That's like one of the biggest fucking ones out there. So we had to watch it. Janet, what's your rating for this movie? What is the way that you feel that this
Well,
movie should?
I had never seen it before, so when I got to watch it, and then I got to read a little bit from some of the information you were able to give me about it only costing $500,000, I was just blown away by it
Yeah.
because the person who wrote the story, I thought it was a moving story. Just like I said earlier when I was talking about, it felt like when I was watching it that I was being pulled into it, and that I was walking around with the lead character, basically in his town, and he's just walking down the street, and you see the street, and you see the people and the way they interacted with each other. It was believable to me. I felt like it was authentic, that I felt like the music that they used with Isaac Hayes as a theme song at the beginning, when you see him walking along and he's wearing that nice jacket, and he's a nice looking man. He's very fit and trim, and he has beautiful sideburns and everything. But he walked with his shoulders back, and he was very masculine, and he was proud to be who he was. And I love that we don't have enough of that anymore. We make so many movies now that make men feel like they can't be men. Okay. And I'm tired of that. I want to see more films like this where a man can be a man and talk like a man and be a man and be respected for it. Okay. Because I think it's time for women to be women and men to be men, and to be respectful to each other, the way we talk to each other. You saw how good he talked to the women in this movie.
It was kind of okay, but like the parting ways was.
Well, that was a woman he just picked up at a bar. You're not going to
Yeah.
expect him to treat, but his girlfriend he treated really good. He was very respectful to her. He when they made out on the couch, like I said, I love the angle that the director used, because it was almost like we were sitting in a chair at a table, whatever, talking to someone else, and they just were making out. They weren't having sex on the couch; they were just making out. It was almost like that view, and I like the different way that this director used the camera to give us a story. It was believable. It was like in your face. I mean, it was like up close and personal. And I like that. I like movies that do that, because they force you into the situation, so you can't, ignore what's going on. And I like that. I liked the colors. It was very vibrant inside the apartments and in the buildings. The streets were wide open. They went from real narrow shots to huge streets, and it showed all the cars and the people walking. It was very believable. It was almost like some of the shots just seemed like a documentary almost. You know what I mean? But the music I loved. I loved the way they used the music to envelop you and take me back in time, basically, is what I felt like. I just loved it. I thought the script was written very well. I thought the editing was excellent. I thought the soundtrack was phenomenal. And I thought all the characters were really believable characters to me. I felt I wanted to see him be successful. And that's what I say all the time when we're doing movies, that if they don't have an arc and they just kind of flatline through the movie, you don't really give a crap what happens to him. But you see this guy, and you find out more about him a little bit as he's going along, and his job, and how much he cares about what he's doing, and how he's wanting to be treated with respect. That's why he demands respect, even from the big dogs, that basically run Harlem. He's not afraid of them. He doesn't show fear. He does all these things. And I love that, because there's nothing more attractive than any man. I don't care if he's got a penny. If he's out chopping wood and he's acting like a man, he sweats like a man, he's being a man, he's attractive. I don't care if he's short or anything. It doesn't matter. What he's wearing, it doesn't matter either. It's something about a man who is confident in himself that comes across. And I can see that. I don't know. I react to that. And I know a lot of other women do too. But I thought he was great in this movie. I thought he was, when I read that he was just a model and that they had picked him and he'd only been a model and been in a couple commercials. That's it. He'd never been in any major TV show or anything. I just thought he was great. I just thought he was a wonderful lead, and I really enjoyed this. I was shocked that I'd never seen it. I'd heard many people talk about it and talk about the music, and that the soundtrack won 3 different awards. And so it was very well done, considering it only cost them $500,000, which is shocking to me still. But I'm going to give it a 8.5 out of 10. Because that's higher score than what you guys were going to give it. You guys gave it already, but that, to me, that was, just under a 9 is what I'm saying, and that was just for a few little technical things with the couple of the scenes where they're fighting, and I thought they were a little bit. I don't know if it was exactly the way the camera angle was, or if it was that they tended to act over each other a few times, and that's the only thing I could find. I found nothing wrong with editing. I looked for things like that, and I didn't see anything. I thought the editing was smooth as silk. I thought whoever they got to edit this film was really good, considering the amount of money they spent. And that's what I usually do. That's why I like to know what their budget is, because if they had tons of money and the editing is shit and the costumes are crap and all that, because that could see they just wasted the money. Like that one movie we were talking about where they had to scrounge around to get costumes because they had already blown the budget and they were having to basically work on scraps. So I'm very, very impressed of how well this movie turned out and how professional the filming looked, considering it was made with such a low amount of money. And with that amount of money, I could tell that the MGM either didn't have the money to give to them or that they didn't expect this movie to do as well as it did.
Okay. 3 movies in all of 71 from MGM made money. 3 movies. That's it. All the other films failed. They were going to close. They were out. They were done. And this movie came out and it succeeded. It actually did everything it was supposed to. So I've got to say that this movie saved an entire studio. It saved hundreds of jobs, if not thousands. And it's made it possible for us to enjoy a film and look back and, be like, oh, wow, that's kind of significant. That's maybe why we have this stereotype today, and that's something
and
that
a lot of that has to do with the director, because a director usually chooses who they want on their team, basically, to help them make that film. And his casting director was phenomenal because they did a great job.
Was great. And I like
that design person, the person who went out and found the places to film, the
Urs Fuller, the cinematographer, that guy, whatever,
I love the way he used the camera.
He did, like, he was an artist on a shoestring budget.
Solid.
Go ahead, Six Nations.
I was going to say this.
Yeah.
Special effects,
really,
my God.
Good.
For such a low budget movie, like in the stairwell, the dude's sitting there and he's bleeding out. Like most films that I recall from the 70s, they just slap some red paint, call it good, go about their business. No, this was like super detailed, and I loved it. It was
and
awesome.
It's not just that. It's not always the squib going off or the blood shooting out and all that stuff. It's the people in the scene acting. Okay. One's acting, the other one is reacting to the actor, and then the other one's reacting to the other actor. See, that is what also makes realism, to make it look real. Because when you automatically go, oh, you grab your gut, or you jolt, or you start to cry, or you clap because you're happy because something good happened, that's because it's a combination of different things that happen in that one scene to get that reaction. And that's why I'm so impressed, because everything they did, like the very scene when he walked up and the police officers, the 2 detectives, stop him and start asking him questions. And then you have the guy hanging out of the door of that little, I guess, cafe or whatever it was he had just left. All the little things like that. And the way that they filmed the seat the street and the different angles that they used made it authentic, along with good acting. See, so you have to have all the stuff working together, and that's what makes it successful. And whoever picked the team to make this movie, they were phenomenal. They were phenomenal at picking good people, especially since they just had such a little amount of money to pay these people. Right, because it's like you said at the end of the credits, you got crafty, you got makeup, you got you just got so many departments, and they barely made money, but it was freaking good. I mean, they did a good job because these people all wanted their movie and their part in this movie to be good, and that have that, yeah. When the people have that, you're going to have a good team. But to see it come together so well it's really good, and I definitely would like to see it again. This time, not have to worry about trying to find stuff. That's what's hard, is watching it and trying not to ruin the movie because you're trying to critique everything as you watch it. And I was writing notes and everything else. So, but I thought it was very good. And I just, like I said earlier, thank you, Bruce, for bringing me another movie I hadn't seen that I really was impressed with.
Not a problem. I love this movie. I thought it was great. I'm going to give it an 82 out of 100. There's just some small things that, detract from it. I'm very rarely do I give a movie a 90 or more. Mm-hmm. So don't think that I'm ripping this movie. This is a 4 out of 5 movie. This is great. This is a movie you can have your kids when they're coming home from college. You can throw them in front of the television, watch this with them. And you can have some memories come back, and you're like, just looking at the cars, a car person would watch this movie and freak the fuck out. They don't make
cars like that anymore.
They don't make cars like that anymore. And I remember driving those, like turning the wheel on the Bonnevilles and Thunderbirds and New Yorkers. Oh my God, you're turning it forever. It's like,
real metal. You could tell they were real steel.
They were beautiful.
Yeah, they are beautiful. Yeah, they were. I just thought everything about this movie was beautiful. The authentic look of looking down the street and being able to see what Harlem looked like. You know what I mean? Or in your mind, because you don't really know. I wasn't there, so I didn't know if it was really Harlem. But it seemed like Harlem to me by the actors they used, the angles they used for the filming, and the characters they put in. So to me, that's what it was.
The other thing about this movie I love is the fashion. The fashions of this movie are so, like, they got it. They nailed it down. Mm-hmm. They completely got the hairstyles right. This was filmed at the time, so it's kind of easy. But the outfits look right. The hairstyles look right. Nothing was really, truly out of place. And it was just watching all the kinetics in the background. This is a very fun movie, and they're working. It looks like they are filming on location in New York, not on a lot in California.
Yeah, it didn't look like it was done at all on a studio.
Yeah, I mean, maybe the only thing that maybe could have been a studio shot would have been like the stairwell scene, but I think they shot that at a stairwell at some crappy location in Harlem because of just how everything looked like it belonged there. It looked aged. Mm-hmm. And very rarely do you have a movie that things look old. They have to shoot on location. They can't just have a carpenter craft it up and then throw some wash and ink on it. And
that reminded me of something I remembered, and I picked up on and made a note of that I liked about it was the authentic part of the signage above some of the businesses, and they looked hand painted. They weren't. I'm not saying they looked like some kindergartner drew on it. I'm talking about they looked handmade. And a lot of people that own a business in a big city that's a small little business, or they can't afford to hire some big agency to come and make them a big sign. Right. So mom and pop place, so it would be a hand painted sign that might be grandma painted or whatever. And they use tape, putting tape on there and tape filled it in, because I've lived in lots of small towns, and that's one of the things that stuck out for me was to see some of the signage above some of the businesses, and I was like, oh, it looks authentic. It looks like a mom and pop cafe. Or a restaurant or a little hardware store. And as they were walking down the streets, I saw lots of the awnings, and this the way they had it set up. To me, it was very authentic, and it pulled me in. It made me want to learn more about where they were at and who they were with, and paid attention to different people walking down the streets, the way that the clothes they were wearing, things like that. Just like you said about the cars, seeing when it wasn't an empty street, you know what I mean? Like it was all blocked off and they're making a big movie.
No,
It was like packed with cars, like I would feel. And I have driven through Boston and other places like that. And it is just bumper to bumper cars all the time. But to see all those cars down the road, park, and there was no openings. That's usually what you have because people are fighting. Keep an eye out. If that car leaves, I want to pull in. You see what I mean? So in cities like that, because I have a lot of relatives. My dad was from New York, and I was born in Albany, and a lot of my relatives lived in New England and stuff like that from my dad's side of the family. So when I would travel up there, I would see lots of, places. I was like, shit, I love New Orleans. It was packed a lot, but only on the big major roads. But when you would go downtown, yeah, you'd have a little bit of small traffic here and there, but it wasn't anything like what I saw when I drove through Boston and areas up there. It was like, oh, I don't know how people do it. I would walk as much as possible if I could, because the traffic is just horrible. But I loved it. It was beautiful scenery. They did a really good job at pulling you into it and wanting to see more. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Want to know more about what's going on. I just like that.
Next week, like I said, we're going to watch a little film called Hoodwinked. It's from 2005. Looks like a CGI comedy. Hopefully, it's not. It's not a poor film. Hopefully, it's great. This was a fantastic film. Thank you so much for the recommendations for this movie. And I'm glad I was able to showcase this to Janet. And for those that have not seen it before, I will just give you a clue. If you go into Bing on a search bar and you look up Shaft 1971 full movie, one of the first 5 or 6 links that pops up is the Internet Archive. And if you don't have a ready way to find this film, the DVD for physical media or such, the Internet Archive is where we watched it because that's where a lot of classic films are stored. So I would recommend that you do what I did when you get the chance. If you see it available for sale at a good price, and I'm going to say under $30 for a movie is a good price, especially physical media, especially when you figure in shipping. This is a great movie. So check it out. And thank you so much for being here with us today. We will see you again